Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem, amma ba'd. We are group one, and a few of the aspects that we had to cover was the concept of waqf, the definition of waqf, the origin of waqf, the justification for it, and the types of waqf. The definition and the concept of waqf that we had discussed was that it's a perpetual endowment. It's the holding of an asset for the purposes of a waqf deed, and the income used from this asset will be used as defined in the waqf contract. And we then spoke about the origin of waqf, and that is a story of Abu Talha radiallahu anhu, which we hope is the sabab in nuzul for this story. I had taken a screenshot of it. I'm just going to call it up again. That it has been reported by Anas radiallahu an, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, that Abu Talha radiallahu an, he owned one of the best gardens in Medina, and they were more numerous than those of any other Ansari. And one of his gardens was known as the name of Birha, and this was his most famous or his most favorite one, and it was close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's masjid, and the water of the well was sweet, and it was abundant. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verse of لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ, then Abu Talha radiallahu anhu, he presented himself to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he opened his heart and he said, "O Prophet of Allah, that I love birha very much. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to spend from which we love, I make over that garden to be spent in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as you please." So this was the story we had taken as the origin of waqf, and we hope that is correct. We thought we'll check with our Mrataha Quran, but we're not able to do that. And then we come to the justification. It is empowering and an uplifting mechanism in the world and success in the hereafter. And finally, the types of waqf. You have, when we had discussed in our group about waqf al-awlad, that a person has a particular house and he says that this house will be used for the purposes of residence for my children, and when all my children pass away, then it will be used as purposes for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren until it is finally disposed of. So that will be one type of waqf. And then you'd have the charitable and the community waqf, which was discussed at length, the different types of waqf for the community. And then of course the mixed one, the joint or the family waqf. So these were some of the types that we had discussed in group one, and we say Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah, can we get this? Okay, group two now, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The name is Ramiz Adams. We were group 2, and the drafting of the waqfiyya as a discretionary. We start off with the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, hal adullukum ala tijaratun tunjikum min adhabin alim. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to the believing folk, and Allah says, let me show you a transaction, a deal, an investment, a fiscal realization, tunjikum min adhabin alim, that will save us from a severe torment. Tu'minuna billahi wa rasuli wa tujahiduna bi amwalikum wa anfusikum. That to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to exert of our wealth and of our personal self. And in that we've drawn up the waqf. It is the Orphan Endowment Waqf Fund. The preamble states that this waqf has been established to benefit the orphans in Africa and the worldwide to the amount of $1 million in a Sharia compliant fund. It is a partnership between the recipients, and this will continue. It will continue to raise funds for the benefit. The objectives is the fulfillment of the directives of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the Holy Quran, and to establish a perpetual sustainable fund to foster the overseas orphan endowment fund. The application is that the ages are from 1 day to 18 years old, and the genders are male and female. The funds can't be used for any actions which contradict Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laws, and we have stipulated that the management of this and administration, that 10% will go to admin, 30% will be reinvested, and 60% to the beneficiaries. We have appointed Awqaf who will supervise the trust, and in any matter, so if there is any mismanagement, that the overseas trust, they will intervene. وقفنا لوجه الله والحمد لله رب العالمين.
So are you saying both group 2 are covered? Okay. All right, Jazakumullah. All right, shall we please, can you leave your presentation with Ahmad Marchi? You want group 1 and group 2, please leave your presentation with Ahmad Marchi. And we also want the register, please. All right, now we go on to group 3s. There are 2 group 3s also, so we'll have one by one.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In our group 3, we had a small community that's living in the fringe of town, and they're having health problems, and they needed a mobile clinic. So we were looking for a mobile clinic, but unfortunately we are not technically capable. So we decided the first thing to do is to consult with the Islamic Medical Association, and preferably have a partnership with them, a memorandum of agreement, so that they will be the technical advisors of the project that we are doing. Then we found that our project will need from us a capital cost, which is the furnished mobile vehicle, and we need a running cost. And we found that the mobile vehicle is about 3 million, and running cost is about 100,000 a month. And to get 100,000 a month, we need an investment of about 12 million. So practically we found that if we wanted a sustainable project, we needed about 12 million rands, and we felt that there are a number of strategies that we will use to try to get those monies. But the most important of those strategies is to get commitment from the community that is receiving the service. So we are saying the community that is receiving the service must give a minimum of 1% of their income, whatever it will be, but we will not do the project without a sort of a commitment, because we found that if there is no ownership from the community in the project, whatever meaningful that project, it will die in due time. So practically we said the founders of those who have the idea must pay first. We have paid already, spending our time as Waqf, but we said no, we wanted also some cash to be put on the table, to be an example for the others to put their resources in. We will go to the rich in our community. There was a very good idea that came in our group, is that there are Sharia compliant investment bodies, that their monies might be generating some unclean money one way or the other, and that they are lying with some funds, and projects like this, if they go and apply, they most probably will be accepted for them to get funding from those projects. Then there are other people who gave another idea, is that in South Africa there is the BEE certification, and the people would like you to partner with them in a project like this so that they get their certification. So practically in our group there are a number of ideas on how to generate the funds, including those who are the suppliers of our mobile clinic. The problem we had is the issue of how can we prevent hijacking of our project, the governance. And we felt that the founders would become trustees, and we will ask the community to also nominate people to be part of the project, so that they keep their eyes open for what the services is happening in it. And the structure of the administration should be divided into terms of management, administration, and trustees. So we create a system that sustains the services. The clinic should not be utilized by some part of the community who are very vocal, where it goes every other day while the others are not receiving. So we wanted to create a sort of equity in it. One important thing that we thought of is that this issue of poverty is continuous, so we needed to create succession planning, and we felt that the trustees should start immediately bringing youth in and do some leadership training, so that we are sure our youth will know the usefulness of this project and sustain it for the future generations to come. I think in short, this is what we have discussed. I hope my group, I have represented you well. Thank you.
Okay, the second group. Yeah, now you had two groups of, both are done. Yeah, both ones, both twos, and both threes, and then both fours. Okay, I think group one didn't give us a submission. Please, group one. All right. All right, the next group we had was this group two, wasn't it? This was group two. We need group three. We need group three, please. I asked for a second group, but there isn't. No, we have to call both together, so that people can hear both groups. Okay? That is what I'm asking for. All right. Okay, I was told the second group was combined. It was not combined. Then please come. Those from group two, the second group two. Yeah, I mean the second group, sorry, from the workshop two, I mean workshop two. So it's group 5. Anybody from group 5? Okay, we did only one of workshop 1, but we did 2 of 2, 2 of 3, and 2 of 4. Okay. So which is the next group that's coming? So please, the one who's doing workshop number 4.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brothers and sisters, I'm tired. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, that's much better. Alhamdulillah, I've been tasked with the responsibility to represent our group, and the task that we were handed was to design a waqf investment. We were a bit prudent in educating the waqif with regards to his intentions, and we said to him that he should make his intention as open-ended as possible, to give us the kind of latitude to invest his waqf more wisely. So he then indicated to us that it just needs to be for community benefit, and we were quite fine with that. So he had donated to us a big piece of land in the city. So what we then decided to do, we wanted the benefit to happen in three ways. So what we then identified was we divided up the land into three parts, and in all these three parts the land would actually yield results in financial benefit for the project. So what we then decided to do, that there needed to be a residential component to it, a commercial component, as well as a renal and dialysis center, because this was one of the areas that was identified by members in our group that our community are in dire need of. So we then got in an investor that bought into the vision that we had for the community, a philanthropist, mashallah, of note. So the person then agreed, this is in the ideal world, the person agreed to actually put up the money for this particular investment of ours, with a return on the person's investment that he will build the entire project for us at whatever rate it was going to be, or whichever amount, and then he would sell it to us obviously at a higher rate, making his profit, and then we would actually pay him back over a period of 15 years. Was that 15 years? Over a period of 15 years. So the thinking behind this obviously is, we know there's always a need for housing in South Africa. So in terms of the residential component thereof, we were thinking of building a block of flats where this particular rentals that would be generated monthly would then obviously serve that particular purpose. In terms of the commercial component, we then thought, in keeping of the idea or the vision of actually benefiting from all of these, we then decided to, with the investor, to build a high-end medical suites that would obviously now be rented by our professionals, or rather the experts in different fields, cardiologists, etc., etc. So in that way, we would then obviously then generate a higher rental income for this particular property than normal GP office GP suites, and then obviously then the dialysis and renal center would then practically also render a service, much needed service to the community, and in that way the Waqif's niyyah or intention would have been realized in more ways than one. Jazakumullah khair.
Okay, can we have group 5, please? You can speak in Arabic, everybody understands Arabic here, so it's no problem.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All praise are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and salutation to our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all his companions and all the Anbiya. Dear respected brothers and sisters, I'm representing Group 5, and it's consisting of Brother Umar Mukata, Ali Mumba, Sister Khadija Ali, and Abedin Suleiman, Ali Masango, Feze Said Abri, and Abdul Rashid Goga, Brother Hussein Aji, and Mohammed Dank. Our Awqaf or Waqf is designated to education, which is tertiary, welfare, which is the orphans, and social development skills. So we've divided from the 100%, we divided 50%, which goes to social development skills. When you talk about social development skills, we see things like drugs rehab, school drops out, and some other related problems. And the 25% of education, since we recently had a problem of protest coming from students who were protesting about fees must fall. So the 25% is for the orphans, as you all know that especially in South Africa, there is too much related diseases which left so many orphans. According to our rules, we have appointed trustees. In our trustees, there must be one family member. At any given time, we were appointed 3 trustees. At any given times, if one trustee fails, another 2 must nominate an organization, and an organization must also approve. In our dispute and resolution, all will be referred to a judicial body or council, whereby the decision is going to be final. According to our Waqf, there must be good governance, use of Islamic banks, and proper accounting. All the trustees must have a minimum of 4 meetings per year for the way forward. And all services must be paid for. Not more than 10% of the income for the type of asset that can be changed at any description of the trustees are flexible and should, but the need be arise. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah. Group number 6, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, our task was to set up a community project, and okay, I'm just going to get right into the meat of it. We decided on a name, and it's a very apt name, Al-Amalu Ibadah, which means action is worship. Basically, it will be a community capacity building organization for males and females. So the objective would be to build capacity in the community to alleviate poverty, begging, and the like. It will be an incubation place for the following: plumbers, builders, blacksmiths, electricians, and the like. It will also be a place for training for persons that pursue the home industry sector. In this light, what we're also envisage is having a central kitchen, and in that central kitchen the central kitchen could be used for 2 purposes: for training and for sales. And when we say training, we mean that if there are ladies or men or youngsters that wish to get trained in skills of the hospitality or the food sector, we will get professional chefs to show them how to do these skills. And furthermore is the idea being that with the central kitchen, we would provide the means and the resources after they have been skilled to go out and market and sell their products, because they would have the facility to do that. Idea being is that there will be a central kitchen with an oven, and maybe a few hours will be allocated to each person to use the oven to produce their products and their food stuff. We would also provide entrepreneurial skills, something like a mini MBA, so the persons will be upskilled in how to manage the medium or mini business. Okay, how we will market the project? We're looking at setting up a website, and then via social media, and yeah, that's basically it, and then word of mouth as well. Okay, and then the purpose of all of this would be to get the persons that need to approach us, so they got a place they can go where they will find us there, and also for persons who wish to give off their skills. And here what we mean is that if there's an electrician that is qualified, then we will partner the electrician with a person that's requiring the apprenticeship, or the plumber, or any of the like. So basically we would find anybody who is in search of a job and needs the apprenticeship, then we will try and facilitate that as well. And I think this is a dire need in the community, or we think that's a dire need in the community, sorry. The source of the income to fund this project, we look at initially all the members contributing about 500 and each, and then if we run short, we will try and get it from other donors as well. And then we're also looking at crowdfunding via the internet. But the main objective in the funding would be is that whatever funds are collected will be invested with Awqaf in the Waqf fund, and we will utilize the returns to fund the project in perpetuity, inshallah. The other objectives of the project would be that all those that benefited from the project are to come back to the project and give back again. So we don't want it to be just a one-way stream. We will also keep a database of all the skills persons seeking employment. So we'll have that as well. Yeah, and that's it. Jazakallah.
Okay, we'll have the last group, group 7.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We've been blessed with the beautiful task of creating a Waqf investment. Alhamdulillah, our Waqf has a beautiful piece of land that's situated in an industrial area, and we were looking for ways and means of creating a sustainable investment that pays out over a long period of time. We've created a lot of needs. We've created assessments. We've done a feasibility study whereby we've seen what are the needs and what would be beneficial for that particular land. What was taken into consideration was whether it could be a factory or a warehousing or something that would be of super benefit to that particular land and can give the best of return. After the feasibility study was taken into consideration and everything that was done, we seen that warehousing was the way forward. The next step was to find the proper investor. What we done was we done a valuation of the land, and the land was approximately 5 million. Having said that, we look for an appropriate investor whereby that particular investor could invest in the building of the warehouse. Fortunately, the neighboring factory was willing to assist and work through this particular project with us. we entered into an agreement with the factory, and we created in the agreement a partnership whereby we stated that this particular will be a means of diminishing musharaka, whereby over a period of time the loan that he has put through over 10 million rand will be paid off. This particular money will be paid off over a period of time. After that, all monies that has been accumulated within the return of this particular investment will be invested into employment, education, and medical needs also.
Okay, this concludes this section. I'll ask Zainul now to round off. The facility for the males for Asal is here, and for the ladies on this side. Zainul.
Assalamu alaikum. I think all of you have had like very interesting discussions around the table there. I'm sure you must have come across a lot of issues and debates, and some of the tables that I visited had quite a few interesting issues as well. For example, whether the Waqf should be designated, whether the one group was talking about creating a Waqfiyah where we would actually designate a Waqf for children throughout the world. Now, I think that in the whole Waqf sector, I think that first of all, the Waqif has got the primary responsibility of looking at what he or she wants to actually donate and how he or she wants to ensure who the beneficiaries will be. Secondly, we have to be very careful in terms of the long-term, whether it's an investment or long-term beneficiaries that we are going to be designating or declaring in the Waqfiyah. This is because we need to give maximum flexibility to mutawallis that are going to go down the line. I think earlier on we heard a lot about issues where sometimes mutawallis are corrupt, sometimes there's mismanagement, and these issues need to be safeguarded in a way. For example, I heard that in one of them we said that there should always be a family member as a trustee. Now, that may not necessarily actually work, because we should always take into account that you need a trustworthy person. You may get a person who, in many cases, even family members have actually caused, theft and malpractice in their waqfs. So we need to be careful about that as well. I'd like to ask you, maybe in the final few minutes of today, if there were any specific issues that you thought, that were that you needed further clarification on. I know Maulana Zubair actually asked also regarding the origins of the Waqf, and generally it is known that the Waqf of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anh is one of the first Waqfs. The one that you quoted on the Sahaba Abu Talha is also regarded as one of the earliest Waqfs, especially after the verse Lan tanalul birra hatta tunfiku was actually revealed. Then there was also another of the Prophet ﷺ himself, where Mukhayrik, that Maulana Taha Karan actually mentioned, the gift that Rabbi Mukhayrik actually gave to the Prophet ﷺ. So those are actually some of the origins, and also the well of Hazrat Uthman bin Affan is also regarded as one of the earliest. So there are a number of those that we can consider as part of the origins. But because Hazrat Umar's was one of those that were socio-economic and commercial actually, because it was a farm and it was productive, that it's regarded as one of the earliest in socio-economic or economic or commercial waqfs. Were there any other funny issues that you thought should be raised? Did maybe I should ask you also, were there any any points that you found that you needed further elaboration on or anything like that, or you know, just as an evaluation of the group sessions that you've had, were there kind of adequate discussions around it as well? Okay, it looks like, gee.
Assalamu alaikum. Just a comment that I thought that personally it will be beneficial for me that if we could have a standard waqf deed format in different forms. So for us just to have some guidance, and if we want to go back to the community and want to discuss with the people, especially when this issue was raised that there are a lot of madrasas and Jamaat Khanas in small towns when there's no proper setup. So, and we are the one, we must go back to the community and educate them and advise them and guide them. First, I thought that it would be better for me if I can get some of those formats so that I can also go through and have some more clarification while I'm still part of this group.
Yeah. Actually, if you go onto the Awqaf website, we have what we call a standard waqfiyah. So the standard waqfiyah covers, for example, each donor would have this waqfiyah. In fact, as a rule, every person that makes a waqf needs to have what we call the standard waqfiyah. So in terms of the standard waqfiyah, the first thing is the niyyah, the second thing is what the person is actually giving, whether it's designated, whether it's discretionary, and then a whole lot of terms and conditions. For example, some of them actually even mention what sort of salary or what sort of remuneration the trustees should get. Now, generally we work on, for example, the 1/8 that the Quran talks about, 12.5%. Some mention 10% as well, but we regard 12.5% as the maximum. That in some cases people do actually stipulate even more, and that is a possibility as well. So there's no kind of restriction as long as it's reasonable, but 12.5% seems to be a benchmark which even the Kuwait Awqaf actually charges for their administration. So, you know, then there may be further conditions as well. And I'd like to perhaps give you one example. That's the waqf of Sultan Mehmed. And if you go into the Ottoman archives, there are very, very detailed waqfiyas. And you know, which would give such specific detail that you wonder whether, you know, people would be able to actually execute it. So, for example, he said in his waqf that he's got 9 shops, and he's making these shops into a waqf, and that the income that is generated out of this, he wants to employ maybe 3 or 5 doctors, and each of these doctors must go door to door to every home in every street in Istanbul to look for sick people, and he should make sure that he cures them with the help of Allah, and he should provide medication and so forth. And if he cannot cure them, he must. If they cannot be cured, they must be taken to a hospital. So that's the kind of detail that he had actually put down in his waqfiyah. So you can actually go into a lot of detail. It all depends on the donor himself or herself, what they would like to do. There are lots of examples of historical records actually of very, very detailed waqfiyah, but we've got probably a 1 or 2 pager that you can just get the standard guideline, and you know, but if you want, say for example, the trust deed of the organization itself, then that might be something a lot more detailed, governing how the organization should, how many meetings they should have, how many, who should keep the minutes, there should be an auditor, all of that as well. Any other questions? Shall we? Oh, one question there.
You said you take 12.5% admin fee.
Gee.
Is that on the profits or on the actual capital?
Good question, good question. So, Awqaf's policy is to have a 100% Waqf policy. So, all the donations that come into Awqaf, 100% is actually capitalized, goes into the Waqf fund. Only 12.5% of the income that's generated gets used for administration purposes. The other 87.5% can be used for furthering that same Waqf, or it can be used for the beneficiaries. Can be even reinvested. Yeah. Yeah, the 12.5% is basically related to operational costs of the project. So it's not necessarily general. It would go into the administration of the project itself.
7, sorry. I think group 7, can we get your presentation, please, and the register? And also, one brother has lost or misplaced his glasses from SADN. There's a bag with SADN written on it. I think there's some notes inside and glasses. So please, whoever finds it, give it to Yahya, please. To that.
Just as a matter of interest on this question again, I also had a discussion with, say, a group in Indonesia, Waqf Al-Azhar. What they do is, if a donor donates, say 1,000 rupees or 1,000 riyals or whatever, they take 10% upfront as their administration cost. The 90% is then invested, and then from the income of that 90%, they would also earn a further 10% of the income. So, it is very flexible. It depends on, in terms of how institutions would like to run their organizations, they may have certain rules and regulations. And in terms of how the donor wishes to actually administer his Waqf, that can also be governed by the donor himself. But again, if you take the whole NGO sector, in some countries, even in South Africa, the NGOs actually spend a lot of their revenues in administration. Probably up to 30–40% of income is, I'm not talking about the Muslim NGOs, I'm talking about general NGOs out there, whether it's the Red Cross or whether it's Cancer Society. You will see from their financial statements a lot of the income that they earn, not out of Waqf revenues, but out of donation income that is actually spent on administration. But we need to actually just take into account that a Waqf needs to be run efficiently, it needs to be run professionally, and it needs to grow, it needs to be protected, it needs to look after beneficiaries, it needs to be administered correctly, and it needs to be long-term. So I think there's a lot of other issues involved in it, and donors need to be cognizant of that if they want their Waqfs to be efficiently run, then there must be an allowance for administration expenditure. Anything else? Okay, so I think with that, maybe if we can ask one of our sheikh to read a closing dua for today, and maybe just a few announcements for this evening's function. Mikhail.
Assalamu alaikum. We've just got 2 gifts of appreciation to hand over to the people that have worked very, very hard for today's session is particularly, and I'm going to call on Fazana to hand over to Shahina something small from Awqaf. Can you please come to the front? All the hard work, there's been a local organizing committee that has put this together, but particularly once we discussed it with the head of the LOC locally, they came up with these two names that should be recipients of this token. The second one we'd like to hand over to his brother Yahya. He kept us entertained till about 4:30 this morning. So could we ask Ahmad, if you wouldn't mind handing it over to Yahya. They were struggling to get all the live streaming going, and he's a software developer and he's sat up until 4:30. So I don't know how good a software developer he is if you struggled. But alhamdulillah, it's been live streamed, and the feedback that we've been getting internationally from our brothers and sisters all across the Waqf network internationally is that so many people have been with us via the live stream and also in spirit on this particular conference. Shukran. I think the arrangements for this evening supper is that we are meeting at 6:30 for 7. Is that correct, Shaina? Also on the second floor, just on the opposite side. So we've got a little bit of a break, and I think we could, is there any other announcements? Sorry? Salah is 5:15. We've got space for the ladies on the right, of my right, and on my left hand side we've got space for Salah. I'm going to ask Dr. Algoni just to make us a closing dua, inshallah.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وتولنا فيمن توليت ويسر لنا فيما قضيت. اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا، اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا، اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا، واستعملنا لرفعة راية دينك يا رب العالمين. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
don't find it.